Magic. One of the inclusions to Shadowrun that made it unique as a cyberpunk game. And also incredibly ridiculous depending on who you ask. After all, reconciling the existence of otherworldly powers and advanced technology is a tricky proposition in fiction, and something writers of fiction can never seem to agree on. But I digress. There was a lot to Magic in Shadowrun 5th edition, and there's also a lot to Magic in 6th as well. And today, we're going to be going over as much of the ins and outs as I can cover in a reasonable amount of time. Because I wasn't joking when I said that Shadowrun 6th World has a lot when it comes to Magic. Most of the sections in Shadowrun 6th World are about 24 or so pages long. Character creation, game concepts, combat, matrix, etc. All of them hover around the 24-page mark, with a few exceptions. Equipment and magic are the ones that break this trend by being over 60 and 40 pages long respectively. Equipment makes sense. Every gadget, gizmo, doohickey, and magic doodad you can get your hands on bears describing. Magic, however, is long because it has a lot of aspects, and all of them are adequately described. This was one of the easiest sections for me to read, with the exception of how long it was, and how much there was to cover. So with that said, let's end this digression and segue into the meat of Magic in Shadowrun 6th World. First, let's review the Magic user archetypes. You've got your basic mages, they can do spellcasting, spirit summoning, and alchemy. Then you have aspected magicians. They can do one of those three things, and not the other two. Next are the adepts, who have magical effects that are typically more passive than active. And last, you have the mystic adepts, who have access to both the adept powers and all the things that mages can do. And since mage abilities are the most numerous, let's start with those. The mage abilities technically fall into four categories. Spellcasting, which is the traditional recite some magic words, do some gestures, and heal, harm, or bamboozle somebody instantly. Rituals are like spellcasting, but take longer and have much bigger and grander effects. Summoning covers bringing spirits into the physical world to do your bidding. And finally, alchemy is imbuing an item with magic to use later, with about the same power level as a spell. All four of these have their own steps and some minor deviations, but can largely be boiled down to 3 steps for each. Decide the spell you want to cast or the spirit you want to summon, as well as what other options that could apply for doing your action. Then you roll to see how effective it is, using the appropriate skill, and then you resist and handle drain. Step 1 has too many variables for me to concisely cover for each. So just keep in mind that there's a fair amount of flexibility when it comes to the different magical abilities. Just to name a few, spells have things such as increasing their area of effect. Alchemical preparations require a trigger that sets them off that you need to decide upon. And spirits require you to decide what their force level is. Check the section for what you're trying to use for the specifics. Step 2 is the simple part. You roll to see both if you succeed and how effective it is if you do. This calls for the magic skill in question and your magic rating, either against the target's ability to resist or some other difficulty rolled against you. Alchemy and magic rating is rolled against the drain level of the preparation to see if it succeeds, or sorcery and magic against the willpower and intuition or willpower and reaction of the target you're casting it on. Net hits on this roll typically improve the results, but in some cases you'll need to make a note of the total hits from the opposing side, such as is the case when you're summoning a spirit. Finally, step 3. Magic is dangerous, and it can, and usually does, backfire. This is called drain. Every spell has a drain value. Spirits cause drain with the roll they make when you summon them, and so on and so forth. After doing a magical action, you roll willpower, plus another stat depending on what your character's magical tradition is. The magical traditions have some slight influences over various parts of your magic. For now, just know that the 2 traditions present in the core book are the Hermetic Mage, who uses logic to resist drain, and the Shaman, who uses charisma. Every hit you get reduces your drain by 1, and any drain left after the roll is applied as damage. If the drain you're taking is less than your magic attribute, this damage goes onto your stun track. Otherwise, it goes onto your physical track. And after you've dealt with drain, you can continue with the effects of what you were casting. Spells and rituals go into effect, spirits are able to be given commands, and preparations are ready to be used. Adept powers, by contrast, are fairly simple. Many of them are passive buffs that you get once you spend a power point or a portion of one to learn that power. In rare occasions, an adept power may call for you to resist drain after you activate it. The test for this is based off your body and your willpower. At this point, I want to take a moment to talk about reagents. This is a term that comes up sporadically throughout various parts of the magic section, and they're important for alchemy, artificing, rituals, and summoning. If you're only concerned with just flinging spells around or you're an adept, you can probably ignore these. As for what they are, they're objects of magical significance that have, well, magical energy in them. What counts as a reagent varies depending on your tradition. With regards to hermetic mages, they'll favor minerals, crystals, old coins, and the like. Stuff we'd associate with folks like Merlin of Arthurian lore, or other feudal European wizards. By contrast, shamans will prefer more natural things. Parts of animals or plants, and handcrafted wooden tokens and figurines. Using a reagent that doesn't match your tradition is possible, but it'll be half as effective, and thus you need twice as much to get the same effect. Magical lodges are also an important thing for mages and shamans alike. They serve numerous purposes, from where you learn magic spells to allowing you to cast rituals, and even creating magical artifacts. In the simplest terms, they're a place dedicated to working with magic. Some place away from the world and preferably somewhat comfortable, since you'll be spending a lot of time there. Don't forget to install a toilet. To create one, you decide on the force of the lodge, and spend force times 500 new yen to buy the appropriate materials and objects to decorate it, and spend a number of days equal to the force of the lodge to attune yourself to it. These also act as a mana barrier and share your astral signature, meaning spells and spirits can't go through it in the Astral Realm, and anybody who can see in the Astral Realm knows this place belongs to you. And as I mentioned earlier, magical lodges are used for learning new spells. This alone is enough reason for you to be familiar with them. The system itself is fairly simple. You spend a certain amount of new yen to get the formula or a tutor to help you learn the spell. Then you roll either sorcery or enchanting plus intuition. You need at least one success, but more successes reduces the time it takes for you to actually learn the spell. The formula for how long it takes is 12 divided by the total number of hits that you got. When you've successfully learned the spell and spent time studying it, you spend 5 karma, and you're ready to use it. Magical lodges are also essential for the creation of magical focus, and I'd like to spend a moment talking about those before I go into how to make them. In short, they're magical artifacts with various effects, and they fit into 3 broad categories. Enhancing some or all of your magical abilities, enhancing or granting new adept powers, or just being magical weapons. They have a lot more specific categories, but that's the gist of it. Suffice to say, they're nifty, and they're powerful, but you can only use a number of them equal to your magic rating at one time, and their combined force cannot exceed 5 times your own magic rating. And because they're nifty and powerful, making them is a pain. There's a lot of things you need to gather for them. You need a magical lodge, and the force of the focus you're trying to make cannot exceed that of the lodge you're using. You also need a formula for enchanting the focus. And you'll need reagents. Lots and lots of reagents. And lastly, you need what is called the telesma, the item that's going to be enchanted to become the focus. This varies from formula to formula. You need to spend a number of days equal to the force of the focus you're trying to make in the magical lodge, and you cannot leave for any reason without ruining the focus and wasting your effort. At the end of that time period, you roll enchanting and magic against the focus's force and the telesma's object resistance. Object resistance, by the way, is a phenomenon where objects are able to, well, resist magic. This chart on page 129 gives you the guidelines you need to know, and the basics are this. The more processed and high-tech it is, the more it resists magic. so making a magic gun is unlikely to succeed, but is only marginally tougher than a magic knife or sword. But back to enchanting. If you succeed on your enchanting and magic roll, the net hits you get is how much force the object will actually have. But there's a few things to bear in mind about making foci. Things that make it a very dangerous prospect. First, you cannot use edge on your roll to create a focus. Second, if you glitch on this roll, you take the entire drain from making it, no resisting. This could easily kill a hapless mage that doesn't know what they're doing. You take 2 drain for every hit rolled, plus the focus value of the formula. Finally, if you critically glitch, you lose a point of essence, permanently lowering your magic potential. Making a focus is not for the faint of heart. But if you succeed, you spend your karma and get a shiny new magic toy to play with. The Astral Realm is sort of an other world made up of magic and spirits. Whenever a spell is cast, it leaves a mark here. Magical foci and other items shine brightly when viewed through the Astral Realm. And it's not physical, so if you're a mage that can project themselves out into the Astral Realm, you can move quickly and see the world from an alternate perspective. It follows a few special rules for combat and the like, but is otherwise yet another tool at the disposal of mages. Just beware that mana barriers can stop you while you're in the Astral Realm, and they're also completely opaque in astral space, meaning you can't see or move through them. And the last thing I want to go over are mentor spirits. Not every mage needs to have one of these, and they're not quite the same as spirits that can be summoned. Rather, they're higher powers and concepts and archetypes that mages can feel called to, and being bound to one grants various advantages and a few disadvantages. They grant 3 kinds of bonuses, only 2 of which any character can ever have. All characters get the all benefit, while only mages can have the magician and adepts the adept benefit. Mystic adepts, however, get the option of picking either, but cannot change their mind once they have made their choice. And of course, no matter what kind of mage you are, you always suffer the disadvantage that it offers. This was a lot to go over, and I skimmed most of it, and I still left out several things. As I said in the beginning, this is the section of Shadowrun 6th World that takes up one of the biggest portions of the book, meaning mages have the most tools at their disposal and also the strictest rules to follow. Most of combat and hacking have rules that boil down to just roll edge to fill in the gaps. Magic is much more specific and doesn't have as very many it just give you edge cases. Frankly, it was kind of jarring to see these differences. But I think the thing I don't like the most about the magic section is that this is the chapter where the Argle Bargle line came from. Argle Bargle. Foo-fa-ra. Hey diddy ho diddy. No one knows. I really hate magic. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting or helpful, give me a thumbs up like. And if you want to know more about Shadowrun or other role-playing games, check out some of my other videos, or even subscribe. And with all that said, I am Aron der Schädel, and I will see you all next time.